Good evening, everyone. We're so glad to have you with us tonight. I'm Karen Hansen in the Marketing and Communication Department here at Can Canines, and I will be moderating this event this evening. I do want to point out a couple of features in the More circular icon down at the bottom. If you click on that, that's where you can find the Q&A where you can submit a question this evening. We will get to as many of those as we can before 8 o'clock. Also, if you'd like to use the closed captioning feature, that is available there. You can just click transcript and select show subtitle. I also want to acknowledge Sarah, who's here as our ASL interpreter for this session. So thank you, Sarah. Jeff Johnson, our executive director, and Julianne Larsen, our director of training, are here this evening to discuss plans for our relocation and expansion. So I am going to go behind the scenes for the rest of the time, and at this point, I will turn it over to Julianne.
Thank you, Karen. As Karen said, I am Julianne Larsen. I am the Director of Training. I have been with Can Canines for a little over 23 years now. I was around for our move into our current New Hope location, and I am very excited to be part of the planning and getting ready to move into another new location. So at this point, I would like to turn it over to Jeff Johnson so he can share a little more about the plans.
Great. Thank you, Julianne. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Sarah, for being with us. And thank you all I think this is one of the largest, if not the largest groups we have had for these town halls, which we do once or twice a year. And I'm Jeff Johnson. I'm the executive director here. I've been here for about 5.5 years. And usually I talk for 3 or 4 minutes and kind of give you some updates, but I'm going to talk a little bit longer today so that we can all be on the same page about where we're at, how we got here with respect to this building move and expansion. And then I want to show you blueprints of the plan as it currently stands for the building, which I think is kind of fun to just walk through, and we'll walk through it and then open it up for questions and hopefully have time for everyone's. So this all started about 5 years ago when we started the process with the board and a larger group of people for strategic planning. Over the course of about a year and a half, we created a 3-year strategic plan, which we have since re-upped. And one of the questions that we addressed in that strategic plan and in the months that followed was the question of growth. Because everybody wanted to serve more people. We know the need is there. We know the demand is there. We have wait lists, and everyone wanted to grow, but we couldn't just, pick a number out of thin air and say we're going to grow to X. In the past, this organization has really grown, I would say, kind of organically. So sometimes we grow, sometimes we don't grow. It just kind of depends on the circumstances. We wanted to create a plan and a specific number and a time frame for that. So after I don't know, probably a year and a half of discussing that with the board and stakeholders from every part of the organization, the board unanimously agreed to a goal of 70 teams per year over 10 years. And that was 3 years ago. So over the next 7 years. And just to give you some context, we have placed between 40 and 50 teams pretty much every year for the past, I believe, 15 years. So we've been at 50 I think last year. We will be right around there again this year. So it's about a 40% goal, 40% increase. And it's, I would say, aspirational and bold, but it's also realistic and it's responsible because it's something that we can do over the next 7 years without sacrificing our quality, without changing who we are or how we do things in any sort of negative way just to get to a bigger number. So that's where we were at. And as we talked about that and we really delved deep into what is it going to take to get to 70 teams responsibly, a lot of things have to happen. We need more volunteers. We need more staff. We need more money. We probably need another prison partner or two. But 2 things really stood out for the short term. One was we couldn't do it in this facility. We've had this facility, been in this facility for 15, 16 years now. It's served us extremely well. But it won't get us to 70 teams, and it probably won't get us to 55 or 60 teams. So number one, we needed a bigger and more sophisticated facility And number two, we realized that we needed to move the whelping function or the birthing function in-house. We have always, since our breeding program started, we've relied upon volunteers to whelp puppies and birth puppies in their homes. And it was a model that really worked for us. But as we grew, it became harder and harder. We had a handful of amazing volunteers who did that, and some of them were starting to retire. Some of them were starting to move away for half the year or longer than that. And recruiting new whelping volunteers was becoming really difficult and almost impossible. So we realized that if we had to do that in-house, which every other large organization of our kind was already doing at that point, with the help of volunteers. So those two things were at the top of the agenda. And so we started the plan then to expand this facility because it was all paid for and we have room to expand. And we created plans to expand this from 25,000 square feet to 50,000 square feet. Oh, let me add one other thing. As we talked about whelping in-house down the road, and that was the kind of the basis of the expansion of this facility was to add a whelping center there. We realized we couldn't wait probably 5 years between then and when we would actually be able to start whelping in-house. We actually needed to do it more quickly than that. And that's where the WAG Center, our Whelping and Growth Center out in New Germany, came in. We started looking around for a facility where we could start whelping in-house with the help of volunteers immediately. We found this kennel facility, we retrofitted it, and now we've been there for, I don't know, a year and a half, closing in on 2 years. It's worked amazingly well for us. It's really been a huge success story, but we want everybody in one place. And there is a bit of an isolation because it's a 45-minute drive from here. So part of that plan was to add a whelping center along with a volunteer center and an early learning center, which we'll talk about more later. We also then, as we created this plan to expand this facility, we launched a capital campaign about a year and a half ago. And that capital campaign was for $10 million. That's what we needed in order to expand and update this facility. And that would include the proceeds from selling the WAG Center and a little bit of money we had set aside. We are, by the way, at $6 million of that $10 million. So we're 60% of the way there, just above that. This meeting isn't about the capital campaign. There may be a couple questions that come up, and I'll be happy to answer them. Let me just say before moving back to the building, we would love everybody's involvement in this, whether you can help in a small way, whether you can help in a huge way, whether you can help anywhere in between, because it's going to take everybody to get us to that $10 million. And it's a really, really exciting project that we're in the middle of. So if you would like to know more about that, you can go to our website. You can contribute right there. If you are interested in, something bigger and want to talk to me about it, you want to talk to Sheila Ross, our development director, about it, reach out to one of us. We would love to sit down with you and talk with you more about that. So anyway, we had our plans pretty much put together to expand this facility. I think I actually shared them maybe a year ago at the last time we did one of these town halls. And then around 8 or 9 months ago, Bill and Terry Pop, who own Pop Communications, were talking to me about a lot of different things, and they suggested that maybe their corporate headquarters, which is about 4 miles south of here, right on 169 in Golden Valley, would work well to be our corporate headquarters instead of this one. And we were far along in the process, and I was pretty skeptical until they came back and said, what if we just gave it to you? What if we gifted you this facility, which was already 50,000 square feet? Our plan had been to double the size of this one to get it to 50,000 square feet. We're starting there at 50,000 square feet. And after a few months of frantic due diligence by a lot of people, the board again unanimously agreed a month or so ago to accept this amazing charitable contribution, the largest one we've ever had in the history of Can-Do Canine. So then we started planning again based on this new facility, and I'm going to show you those pictures in a minute. Just so you know, renovating the Pop building, or we sometimes call it the 620 building because that's the start of the address, is more expensive than renovating this building. For several reasons, but mainly because we start from scratch with the kennels, and building those kennels, it's several $1 million. However, we're able to sell our current building in order to do this because we're going to move. And what we should be able to get in proceeds from the sale of this building should make up the difference in the extra expense to renovate that building. So we still need $10 million, but what we're going to have in the end is a larger facility, a more sophisticated facility, and one that will set Can-Do Canines up for many, many years, far past 70 teams a year. So that's where we're at. I would love to show you the building. So let's see. Hopefully that worked. So this is a picture of the building. I'm going to show you two aerial views. This one is a little bit upside down. So the bottom of the picture is north and the top of the picture is south. This is looking south along 169. 169 is kind of at the top right of the building of the picture. And so you'll see that there are four different segments of the building that jut out from the main office area. This is an old elementary school. And then there are some green spaces in there. This is correct from a standpoint of direction. So the bottom of the picture is south and the top of the picture is north. 169 is on the left side. And if you drive up towards the top of the picture on 169, you will, about 4 miles down the road, hit Can-Do Canines. This is literally straight south. This is in Golden Valley, by the way. And the way you look at this picture, I'm going to move now to the blueprints, and they are set up exactly the same way. So the bottom is south and the top is north. Let me caution that this is several iterations into the facility plans, but they will change some. I don't think they're going to change dramatically, but they probably will change some over time as we get closer to actually breaking ground, which we hope to do early next year. So hopefully you can see my cursor. Let me just kind of walk through quickly what is in here. We'll start on the right side or the east side, northeast side of the building. This is actually new. There are three new additions to the building that we would build. So in the end, it'll actually be about 60,000 square feet. We'll go from 25,000 to 60,000 square feet. This is new. There is no warehouse in this building because it was an old school and we need a warehouse where semis can back up into it. So this will be new. There'll be a warehouse space there. And then this orange space and this orange space here are both new. This will be the new whelping edition. It'll be known as the, I believe, the Birthing and Enrichment Center or the Bay Center. This is going to be awesome because we retrofitted the WAG Center and it's worked really well. We actually get to build this from scratch exactly how we want it. So it's going to be perfect for the moms and the puppies and the staff and volunteers who spend their time here. There will be 2 different yards for the puppies to use depending upon their age. I won't go into details inside of this part of the facility, but it's going to be very state-of-the-art. It will have its own air intake and outgo, so it'll be a clean part of the building. You'll enter here, and this will be an area where you change clothes and clean up before you're allowed to go in. And we won't have a lot of traffic in and out of this part of the building. Down along here, we will call this probably the puppy wing or the early learning center wing. Right here, however, is the new volunteer center or the volunteer commons. It's going to be known as the Alan Peters Volunteer Commons, named after our founder, so that every volunteer who walks in here, the literally thousands that will walk in over the course of a year, will see his name and be reminded that we wouldn't exist if not for his vision and tenacity. But we're actually going to have a place for volunteers to come inside and sit and wait rather than waiting out in the parking lot by the dumpsters, which we've been doing now for 15 years. And we'll have this training room right here will be dedicated to volunteer training. We have the dog kitchen here. We've got, I'm not even sure what these rooms are, probably a little storage, maybe a small office there. The vet center will be right here. So when you park here, you can walk in. If you are dropping off a puppy for the early learning center, you'd come in this way. If you're a volunteer coming in for training or some other reason, you'd come in this way. And you can go to the vet center here. These are ISO kennels for new dogs to make sure they're healthy or for dogs who are sick. We'll have our early learning center training room right here. And then the puppy kennels or the early learning center kennels will be right here. And these will be for puppies who are just over 10 weeks old. We used to call them our early starts. probably the greatest volunteer challenge we have now that we don't have to recruit in-home whelpers, is to find people who can take these youngest puppies. Because if you work, you can't really do it. And this will allow people to drop the puppies off during the day, like a puppy daycare, and then pick them up again and be with them at night in their homes. We will have a dog yard here that will be turfed, just like the turfed areas we have right now. And there'll be part of it will be for puppies and part of it will be for in-final training dogs. This will be the in-final training kennel wing. So we will have quite a few more kennels than what we have right now, and this will allow us to grow probably well past 70 teams before they have to figure out where else to put more kennels. We'll have another dog yard here, so we will have two different turfed dog yards. This is actually will be the yard for staff dogs. That will have a wall in between here, but when staff bring their pet dogs, this will be where they'll go. If we go up here, I already mentioned this part, but right here, this is the old gym of the building, and this is now going to be all employee space. So there will be employee meeting space here. We will have multiple meeting rooms in here. The staff kitchen will be here. We're going to have a couple personal rooms here for somebody's in a cube and they need privacy for a call, or a nursing room, something like that. That will be there as well. Right now, our staff kitchen is so small that you really can't even eat lunch in there. So people might microwave their lunch and then they go to their desk to eat it. We're going to have a room for actually people to eat together, which would be kind of nice. The top here will be our client apartments. We currently have one. This will give us three. These two will be connected so that if a client comes with a caregiver, they don't have to stay in the same hotel room, but they will be connected. There'll be some extra office space here. This will be our kennel office space. Our kennels don't really have any office space now, so we'll have some workspaces and a dedicated office for them, and they will be close to the kennels. This will be our training wing, or not our training wing, our program wing. So most of our program staff will be in this wing right here. There are really nice cubes that are already built in this area, plus some office space. And then we'll have two more training rooms here and the training apartment where dogs get used to, opening a fridge or hearing an oven alarm or whatever, will be right there. This will be our new big room. So we're calling it the event space. We'll come up with a better name, but it's actually slightly larger than the big room we have, but it's going to be much more useful because it's not the epicenter of the building. So people won't be constantly walking through it. So if we have a smaller meeting in there or an event, it won't interrupt the day-to-day activities of our organization, which I'm really excited about this. This will open up to what is now a grassy area. We'll probably put a little courtyard in here, but we also want to create walking space in here for our dog walkers and just staff and volunteer area. We're calling this a boardroom, but it'll just be a very large meeting room where we can have either a board meeting of 20 people or a meeting of 40 to 50 people, maybe a small fundraiser, that sort of thing. And then this will all be office space. Assuming we can afford this addition, this will be the first thing to go. If it comes down to we just can't afford it all, we'll lose this office addition. But if this goes in, then this will all be connected and this will all be administrative offices right down the hall from all of the program offices. And this isn't set up the way it will be. There'll be a lot of cubes in here and some office space. Bathrooms here, some bathrooms over here. We'll have a lot more parking. It's 2.5 times the parking, although we'll probably take some of this parking area and add some extra green space for dog walkers. This is all green space here. There's currently a walking path along the south end of the building, and then down here is a fence. And there's a daycare center down here and a little setback a little ways. I think there's an apartment building here. So, one last thing. We will have an elevator. There's no elevator in the building right now. It's one floor, except along the edge of the old gym, there is a mezzanine that is full of offices and meeting rooms, which we will keep. So we are going to install an elevator. It's going to be a slow elevator, and I doubt if people will use it for work purposes. Hardly ever. There are stairs right here. But I know the trainers are very excited to use it for training, and it will be large enough to fit a dog, a wheelchair, and a person standing up. So dogs, we won't have to go to Menards to train dogs on how to use an elevator anymore. So with that is the facility. And I will turn it back over to Karen to start asking questions.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. That was a lot of good information to be sharing. We're so excited about this. I'm going to let you catch your breath after that for just a second and throw a question at Julianne. One came in from somebody asking, can there be room set aside for a workout space for our graduate teams where they can train or play during the winter months?
Well, as you just saw, the building is a lot larger than what we have now. So I would say there's definitely potential that there could be time set aside that maybe one of the training rooms could be used. Certainly something we'll talk more with our graduate services coordinator about.
Okay, great. Potential abounds. Jeff, hope you got your breath.
I
So
did.
here we go. Someone asked, what about graduations? Are they coming inside too, or will they be outside, or both?
I think the plan is to keep the graduations inside. We'll actually have a larger event space now, so we will be able to allow even more people to come to graduations than we have in the past. So I won't throw outside graduations because some of our staff's head would explode if we start talking about risking the weather for that. So we'll still have plenty of room for inside graduations.
Great. Someone submitted this ahead of time, and so I want to ask, as far as the building plans, if the fenced yard to which volunteers can bring their can-do canine dogs uses a wall of the building, can we have a water spigot on that wall to fill our dog's water dish?
Possibly. We haven't figured out where that play yard's going to go. We will have it. We know we'll have it. And there's going to be, as I mentioned, there's already a bunch of green space on the west side along 169, and we'll probably add some more in the existing parking lot because we have far more parking than we need. So it might be freestanding, but if it's up against the building and there's a spigot there, that obviously we could try to place it that way. So that's a great idea if we can make it work.
Okay, Julianne, we have a couple of people asking more about the WAG Center and the plans. Jeff did mention that we plan to bring everyone all together under one roof. But then can you talk about what happens with that WAG Center? And then as part of that, what is the relocation timeline for that as well?
Sure. The plan right now is once the new facility is complete, we'd move everything into there when it's ready to be up and running and then sell our new Germany property. There's talk about, maybe getting it on the market before we're ready to move, so we're kind of looking at the timeline because it's a unique property, so it might take a while to find the right buyer. So if anybody's listening, knows somebody that wants to open a kennel, let us know. So once we move, then that property will be sold.
Okay, I'm going to keep on with you about WAG Center. How much of a change in the WAG Center's pool of volunteers are you preparing for? And are you collecting data to anticipate and as accurately as possible to prepare for that change in number and availability of trained volunteers?
Yeah, we're looking at, it's going to be probably close to 2 years before the move happens. So we haven't started really delving into the volunteers and surveying people, just from the people that we talk to regularly and know. A lot of our very dedicated volunteers out at WAG are actually probably closer to Golden Valley than they are to New Germany. So I anticipate the majority of the volunteers will come along for the ride with the new facility. I've also had a lot of volunteers mention to me throughout the last year and a half that they'd love to volunteer at WAG, but it's too far where it is for them. So I'm anticipating even more volunteer availability when we're more centrally located.
Great. A number of people are really eager to hear more about that timeline. So Jeff, are you able to share any more details of when we expect to perhaps break ground or be moving in, all of those fun
Yeah.
dates?
Yes, it's very preliminary because we still have a lot of work to do with the city of Golden Valley. We've been in New Hope. They've been a great partner. I think Golden Valley will as well, but there's a lot to work through. But our hope right now is that we would break ground next February, probably mid to late February. And break ground might not be the right words because a lot of what we're doing is internal. And so the one nice thing is we could do it right in the middle of winter without actually having to dig, and we could save that for the spring. If we're able to break ground in February, we believe that we'd be able to move in the following February, so February of 2028. That's at least currently the game plan.
How about the city of Golden Valley? Since we are changing zip codes, are they okay with Can-Do Canines coming in?
So we've met with a lot of staff members, and they've been tremendous. I mean, we've been so happy with, they're excited about it. But the staff doesn't get to make the decision. The city council and the mayor make the decision. I've met with the mayor. She's been wonderful. Have not met with city council members yet, but I'm really very optimistic that they seem to be thrilled to have us in their city, even though they're giving up property tax income because we don't pay any, and a condo on that site would. Um, and they've been great about it. So I think it's going to be just fine. We just have a lot to work through.
Part of that working through is the fundraising. And so can you say a little more about that in relation to the timing? Does all the money need to be raised by the time we begin remodeling over there?
No, I think the short answer is no. It would be wonderful if it was, but I don't suspect we'll be at $10 million by next February. If we are, that's wonderful. I think what it'll come down to is wherever we're at, I think that our team will take a look at how confident we are that we can still get to $10 million, and the board will make a decision based on that. One nice thing about this is there are pieces of this plan that could be phased and saved for later. I mentioned that office edition. We don't have to have that. I would really like to have that because it keeps everybody together rather than separates them. But if that's several $100,000. And if it just turns out that we might have to wait until we're sure we have the money and put that off at the end, we can always do that. And there are some other things that we could hold off on if we absolutely had to. So I think that I suspect that by next February, we'll be in a place where the board is comfortable moving forward, knowing that we have some flexibility later on.
Julianne, I'm going to throw one your way. We have one of our groomers that wrote in saying, I love doing grooming every Wednesday. And frankly, we love that you do. And as part of that, they do the laundry as well. So they're wondering if we know if the grooming facilities will be near the laundry facilities and will there be any new equipment?
We're hoping for lots of new equipment, but we'll talk to Jeff about that later because we don't want to add stress of more money. But the for sure the laundry will not be in the same room as grooming anymore. Having those combined has really caused a lot of problems for our washer and dryers, getting a lot more hair in them. And honestly, off the top of my head, I can't remember how close we have them set. Jeff might know better, but they definitely will be in that wing, not far from each other, but not in the same room.
So I don't want to go back to the picture because I'll mess something up, but I believe we have two grooming rooms now. So we put one up by that volunteer area and then one down by the puppy training area, if I remember right. And the laundry room, I think, is right next to one of the two grooming rooms.
Okay, I'm going to stay on that topic because someone says I had suggested the possibility to have an extra dog wash area where we can sign up for a time to wash and dry dogs. Is that a possibility? We could bring our own shampoo, towels, etc., clean up when done, because many of us can't do it in our homes.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with, if you're volunteering, you got one of our dogs in your home and you want to come in and sign up for a time to wash and dry your dog at our facility. I don't see that being a problem, especially once we have two.
Okay. Uh, Jeff, here's a question for you. How many staff do we currently have?
Hmm. I mean, it changes because we do have a bunch of part-time staff. I think we're at 57 or 58, and maybe 10 or 11 of those are part-time staff.
Yep. Okay. I'm going to stay with you. This is a different subject for you, Jeff, but this came in from someone asking, how do you separate your work from your faith in order to better serve those who do not align with your personal beliefs?
Hmm. Um, well, I would say the honest answer is I mean, I don't think I can separate my faith from any part of my life, and I think most people of any faith would say that. It's kind of part of who you are. Um, so it factors into every decision I make, sometimes consciously, sometimes subconsciously, which I think is actually a good thing because my faith tells me to be kind to people and be honest and remain calm in a storm and help people less fortunate. I think it's a positive. So I don't know that I separate it, but if the question or maybe the concern is, do I treat people differently because they believe differently than I do, or do I expect someone to conform to what I believe versus what they believe in order to be well served by Can Do Canines or in order to be welcomed into Can Do Canines? I'm very careful and conscious to never do that. Never treat people differently based on that or expect them to conform to what I believe. I think if I did, I'd be a really bad leader of Can Do Canines because we're all over the board here, whether you're talking about staff or clients or volunteers. We cover the gamut when it comes to religion or politics or anything else, which I think makes us strong as an organization. It makes us more representative of the population and of our client base. So, I mean, faith is part of my life. It's part of the decisions I make, including in my work life, but I'm very careful not to treat people differently based on different views or different beliefs. So I don't know if that answers the question or the concern, if it's a concern, but if it doesn't and someone's listening, call me or shoot me an email. I'm happy to sit down and talk through that one. That was a deep one.
It was deep. We'll make this next one a little less profound, maybe. But can the Woofaroo be held at the site?
We don't know yet. As it exists, I'm not sure it can. I don't know that there's a great way to do a longer walk around there. Um, so we'll have to figure that out. I mean, the parking lot's going to be a lot bigger, so we can certainly still have an outdoor event there. It might have to look different, but that is to be determined yet.
Jeff, I'll maybe have you pull up the plan again if you don't mind, because we've
Yep.
had a couple people ask for a little more information about showing where the volunteer walkers would enter and exit the building, how long of a walking path might be available, or just in general, the space that they will
Yep.
be having for that activity.
Okay, share. Let me try this again. All right. Okay, so the question was the dog walkers.
Yes, where they come in and out of the building for doing dog walking and where they would go then with the dogs.
We don't know for sure yet, to be honest. Right now there's a really nice path along here already. We suspect that we will extend it along the side of the building, possibly even into a new green space up here, possibly into here for a loop, because this is grass right now. We'll probably have a patio up here. Um, so that is to be determined. What we know is we won't have a wooded area anymore, which there's pluses and minuses to that wooded area. We find a lot of dead critters in that wooded area, so that's a minus. But having the shade is kind of nice. But we'll probably have as long, if not longer, of a walking path, and we'll be able to, I think, put a lot of nice shrubs and things like that. Where volunteers will come in and out. I mean, volunteers that dog walk will likely come in this volunteer entrance and they'll be able to go right into final training. I think the question will be, do we have them go back out and around the building like this? Or is it possible to let them come right out the back? I mean, there are some issues with that from the standpoint of security, so I'm not sure we can make that work. That would be the easiest. Getting them back in this way might be difficult, but um, uh, yeah, or maybe they come back out here and go out this door or something like that. But that one we still have to kind of figure out. I think there'll be a really nice walking path though.
All right, Julianne, I'm going to get you back in on the action. Someone asked if this amazing expansion, oh, hang on, I just lost it, will help us get a service dog any sooner.
That is one of the goals, and one of the reasons we want to increase our capacity so we can have more dogs in for final training, more teams in training. So that is definitely one of the goals with this expansion, is to move things along a little faster. People.
Okay, very good. Jeff, I'm going to start with a comment. This doesn't seem to have a question with it, but someone suggested maybe name that large event space for graduations after the pops, so we all know they helped us so tremendously.
Yeah, well, we are actually we have offered to name the facility after the pops, the campus after the pops, and we'll work that out with them. I mean, it is the most generous gift anyone's ever given us by quite a bit. And we want to honor them in any way that they're comfortable. So we will definitely be doing something. And then you're going to see a lot of names on that building because we're naming every possible room and kennel and everything else for people who want to help fund it. So if you have an interest in naming something, let me know.
There's a question about another specific person here too. This person says, at the volunteer meeting, you mentioned the architect at the U of M who is working on this. Can you say more about this person?
Yeah, so Peter Hilger he was the architect who did the building that we sit in, which was gutted and started from scratch, which is, parts of this new building are going to be gutted. He did that. He did the new plans for this building and then started all over for the new plans for the 620 building. And he's done every bit of that for free, saved us literally hundreds, probably many hundreds of thousands of dollars. And he's put in hundreds of hours and will continue to, because there's a lot of work left to do on this. So Peter's amazing, and we're very thankful for him. He actually teaches at the University of Minnesota. So he's very accomplished, and we're lucky to have him as a supporter.
Okay, I'm going to stay with you for this next question. Someone asked, is any portion of that capital campaign going to a maintenance endowment, or what is the plan for increased maintenance costs in a much larger building?
So none of that is dedicated. The $10 million is needed to get the project done. Part of that plan that I talked about with respect to growth is we looked at how many more volunteers are we going to need? How many more dogs are we going to need? How many more staff are we going to need? And how much more money are we going to need to increase staff the way we need to, as well as have a larger building? So that's all factored in. And the bottom line is we just need to continue to increase our operating income. We have every year for the past 6 years or 5 years increased it far past inflation. And frankly, we need to keep doing that. And I think as we raise our profile, we've got such a cool story to tell. People love our story. People feel good about what we do. We just need to continue to continue to tell that story and raise the profile. And I'm confident we'll be able to continue to increase our income year after year, because we'll need to do that in order to make this work.
Okay. We've had a couple of people comment on accessibility, and I want to read you this. There's, again, no question with this, but an interesting perspective here. As you renovate this building, add technology, consider adding telecoil or looping for the hearing impaired. The coil goes into the conduits with the other cables. It is not expensive. In Europe, all the banks are looped. In Australia, the river taxis and horse barns are looped. It would demonstrate that you are ahead of the game. So we'll make sure that we hang on to that information and give that some thought.
I've never heard of that before. But yeah, I just wrote it down. We're actually hiring an accessibility consultant to spend some time with us on the building in these early stages to help us think through that. We'll also obviously be asking some clients down the road to kind of walk through with us and give us their thoughts on it. But yeah, we take that seriously. I'll look into that. That's interesting.
As part of that, someone wondered if we knew yet how much accessibility work needs to be done to the buildings as the plans sit now, especially in the doorways to the bathrooms and so forth.
Yep. Yeah, the bathrooms likely are just going to have to be rebuilt. And I mean, the doorways into the building, I think the sidewalks, all that should be fine, but we'll take a very close look at that. The bathrooms yeah, we're gonna pretty much have to start from scratch with the bathrooms, I think.
Do we have a contractor selected for the project yet?
We do not, but we're in the we're in the I, almost the final stages of that. So we put out an RFQ, and now we're at the RFP stage. We've narrowed it down from 9 potential contractors to, I believe, 5. And in about 2 weeks, we'll interview those contractors and make a decision and a recommendation to the building committee and the board. So my hope is that by mid-July, we'll have a contractor who will be a big partner with us, because our goal was to hire them in these early stages so they can help us as we finalize plans to make sure we're doing things in the most economical way and figure out ways where we can maybe save money here or there without sacrificing what we need to do.
All right, give you another water break real quick and ask Julianne, do you know if there will be any staff on site at night at the new place?
At this time, we are not planning to have a on-site caretaker that lives on site, but with the whelping facility being there, anytime we have young puppies, we do have staff. We staff it 24/7. So often there will be people in the building overnight, but not a live-in caretaker.
Okay. Jeff, after we move into Golden Valley, will this be the largest assistance dog facility in the US?
No, no, there will be a few that are larger. I mean, there are a handful of organizations that have facilities in different states around the country. But this will be one of the largest. I would guess will be certainly in the top 10, maybe even, closer to the top 5, if I had to guess.
Okay, thank you. Julianne, I've got another one here for you. Do you have any plans of having additional trainers in the St. Cloud and Alexandria areas? This person would like to attend more events as a graduate in St. Cloud because they do not drive to the cities.
Well, at this point, if I'm understanding the question correctly, our client services coordinators do obviously work with clients in the St. Cloud and Alexandria area. Typically, when they're further out, like Alexandria, we would hire a independent contractor, what we call a field trainer, that would work with the team while they're in training. We don't have any specific events planned in either of those cities, but our graduate services coordinator does offer virtual classes and virtual trainings. So that's something that everybody can keep an eye out for and can join into those virtually.
Great. I want to thank the person who sent in more information about looping technology. They mentioned AuraCast, Uracast. So we'll jot that down as well. So thank you for that. Jeff, regarding donations for the capital campaign, can they be broken up into several payments over a certain amount of time?
Yes, up to 5 years. So some people may just want to give their gift or spread it over 2 years, but up to 5 years. And we've had, several contributions where they've given 20% this year, and then they're going to give us another 20% each of the next 5 years. So we can, as long as it's not longer than 5 years, we can structure this any way imaginable for people. And since we're on the capital campaign, I did promise Sheila, who's our development director, that I would bring up the fact that we're calling them guided experiences. So we're having 3 1-hour guided experiences for people who maybe don't know us quite as well, but might be interested in contributing. And we will guide them through this building so they can understand what we do, and we can kind of tell them our story. I mean, we give tours all the time, but this will be for a group of people to really understand what we do. We'll probably do a dog demonstration. And I've got the dates for those. So if anybody listening is interested in coming to one of those, or if you know of somebody who you want to introduce to Can Do Canines, it'd be a great way to do it. We're doing it on June 25th at 2. These are each an hour long. June 25th at 2 o'clock. July 14th at 10 a.m. and July 23rd at 7 p.m. June 25th, July 14th, July 23rd. I'm sure that's on our website as well, but it'd be a great opportunity for somebody who might want to help with the capital campaign, learn a little bit more about us.
It is in the works of being put on the website. I'll tell you that as someone
Thank
who
you.
knows, but it will be there very soon. Julianne, someone asked, do you have any ideas of what prisons might participate in order to increase more of that part of the training for our dogs? And they're wondering why Shakopee is not one of our partners yet.
We have been in talks with multiple prisons both in Minnesota and Wisconsin. Shakopee is absolutely one of them. They were ready to get going with a dog program and then ended up getting funding for a renovation of their facility. So until that renovation is complete, they are not ready to start a dog program, but we check in with them regularly, and they're very excited about the idea of partnering with us for a program there. So we are just starting a program in the next, we're setting it up yesterday at Willow River. So another weaning program. So that one's coming on board this year. And we're always looking and talking to various prisons. So
could you speak a little more about the current waiting lists for new teams?
I want to say we probably have a little over 90 accepted and waiting applicants. Our Autism Assist pre-app list is still very long. That's our longest one always. We have closed that pre-app list, so we aren't accepting any more applications for that right now until we work through a lot of that pre-app people that have been waiting for a while. So we do have quite a wait for things. For mobility assisted, the wait varies depending on the person's needs and what dogs we have in, but that list probably moves the fastest of all.
Could you speak a little about the facility dogs, of maybe how many we have placed, and are we going to continue to grow this program?
Sure. As of now, I believe we have certified 21 facility teams, with the first one actually being in 2003. We did do a handful of facility placements in early 2000s. We also, are looking closely at people that apply for a facility dog. Our priority is and always will be the individual placements, placing a dog with a person with a disability. So some of the dogs that get diverted to facility, it might be because they just aren't going to work as an assistance dog for one person. Maybe they need a lot more work than most of our clients can give, or they're just way too social. They are begging for a job as a facility dog. So we do limit how many we place a year if it's a dog that could have gone to a client or the right client coming along. But if it's a dog that potentially wasn't going to make it as an assistance dog for one person, we'll place those if we have the right placement for them. So the program will continue, but it's not going to take over. We have more placements there than we do with our individual placements.
Okay. Jeff, I'm going to move back to you, just talking a little bit more about the overall growth. Someone's wondering just how it will be proportionally when we are increasing the number of dogs that we certify. How will that affect number of volunteers, number of staff, and so forth?
Yeah, so that was all part of the process of coming up with the 70 team goal. We need to go, that was 3 years ago now. So we do need to go back and update that because maybe it's changed a little bit, but we did a calculation at the time of each of those things. So we have what we call 5 pillars here, and all of our pillars, except for clients, would need to increase. We going to need more dogs. And so that's Julianne's team has been working on that, and it will continue to. We're going to need more volunteers. And with that, part of that can be helped if we have more prisons, or if we have more pups in worship, or if we have another Best Buy sort of setting or another school like the U or River Falls. We will need more staff, obviously. So that's all part of the plan right now as we build the office space in this new facility, is to build for the growth we need to get probably well past 70 teams. And we'll need more money to pay the staff and for just higher operating costs. So all of that, as I mentioned, the only thing we probably don't need more of are clients, because we know the need is already there. We already have waiting lists. And as we raise our profile, more and more people apply. So that's not one we're going to have to work hard at because they're there. But everything else, all the 4 of those other pillars are all going to have to increase. And we have our goals for that. But again, I think it's probably time now as we get closer to building the building to update those goals and make sure they're still accurate.
Okay, Julianne, since COVID put us a little bit behind in placing dogs, someone's wondering if we are caught up, and if so, what is the goal age for a dog to be put into final training and then placed?
Yeah, so there was that delay during COVID and took a while to catch up after. I will say at that time, that's probably when our client list was the shortest. We weren't getting as many people applying. A lot of our clients are medically fragile and weren't comfortable going through training, going in public, and all those kind of things. So we did see a decline in applications at that point. I'd say we are caught up from COVID times, but other things come along and throw a wrench in things, whether it's being short-staffed on trainers or those kind of things, which kind of slows down the bringing dogs in for final training. So overall, my goal is always to have them in before they're 2, ideally. So I think we're getting there.
Okay, I'm going to stay with you. Someone's asking about the criteria of how to place a dog with a facility or a home companion dog. I thought a home companion dog is first placement if a dog were to be career changed. So can you speak to the priority of placing in one area versus another?
Yeah, a lot of it really depends on the dog, right? If you have a dog who isn't super comfortable, maybe in large crowds or in public settings, but loves to work, that might be a great skilled home companion. A dog that wants to get out, wants to work, wants more to do, that is a good fit for like a hospital placement, probably wouldn't do as well as a skilled home companion. So we really look at the dog. We really look at whether it's the person's needs or the facility's needs. And honestly, we don't have a huge wait list for skilled home companions. So often we don't even have anybody waiting for one if we do have one come up as a good fit.
Jeff, can you share some information on the age of the POP facility? Is it more energy efficient?
So the top facility is about the same age as this building. I think it was half of it was built in the late 50s and the other half was built in the very early 60s. I think I have that right. And this building was also built in the early 60s. So they're the same vintage. It is far more energy efficient than this building, partly because it's been a private sector office building for decades now, and the POP organization is a very well maintained building. They take pride in keeping it up. It's technologically more advanced than what we have. It's more advanced from an energy efficiency standpoint, probably by a lot. It's more the HVAC in there is more advanced and newer than what we have. The windows and doors, excuse me, are all newer. I think the plumbing is in better shape. So we are gaining a lot in ways that a lot of people really don't think about. It's also a super strong building. It was built as a school in the late 50s to, I think, survive a nuclear blast because that was the age back then. And so it's a very sturdy building as well.
Sturdy sounds good. Uh, Julianne, someone's just asking about WAG, how it's going now, but then maybe if you can also talk more about how that will look differently at the new headquarters in Golden Valley.
Yeah, things are going great out at WAG. It's been that building has just been great having that facility and being able to kind of wrap our heads around whelping in house. I don't anticipate much being different as far as the regular procedures and things that happen with the dogs. I anticipate it running very similar.
Okay, I'm going to keep you for just one more question. Are there any breeds of dogs that don't generally work well as service animals?
Well, we primarily use Labradors for a reason. They are easy to train, food motivated, will, bond to whoever feeds them and transfer to a new person quite easily. So those are some of the reasons that Labradors are used a lot. Can't say that there's any breed that never would work. Every dog is an individual, and I've seen some dogs that really surprised me that were awesome working dogs. So, the key is dogs that are food motivated, want to work. Often your hounds and breeds like that aren't that excited about this kind of stuff, but doesn't mean they can't do it.
I lied. We have another question for you that just popped in here. So, can you explain typical reasons for career changed dogs? And they're wondering if a dog has an allergy med, for example, and the client can afford that and is willing to consider that expense. Can the dog still be placed?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, we kind of break our career changes into two categories. It's medical or behavioral. So medical reasons may be hip or elbow dysplasia. So some orthopedic problem that could cause lameness and shortened working life. So those dogs typically would career change if they have severe hip dysplasia or elbows. On the behavior side, sometimes it's dog reactivity or things like that are probably the most common that we see. Sometimes it's a dog that just doesn't want a job. We're not going to try to force a dog into a role that it isn't suited for and doesn't want to do. So we have placed some dogs with mild allergies that maybe need some medication, always with letting the client know that this is something going on, and making sure they're comfortable covering that expense. Allergies typically get worse as the dog gets older. So even if they're not needing a lot of medication at the time of placement, it may increase. So it is something we look at. Every dog is an individual, and if we think that's something that we have a client that would be willing to take on.
Perfect. Well, we are 1 minute to 8, and we just got through all of the questions that have come in. So I am going to wrap things up here. We want to thank you all for being with us this evening. We will make this available on our YouTube channel in case you want to check it out again or tell all your friends and family members to go listen to us. And we hope to talk with you in this way again sometime soon. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.